Good morning and welcome back to our Newman Lumen series. My name is Allison Pelkes and I serve as the multi-faith coordinator for the Truett Center for Religious and Spiritual Life at Elon. It is my privilege to put together this Newman Lumen series. Our theme this year is Bridging to Hope, and we have heard from some fine people from across campus on what hope means to them. This morning, we hear from Charles Johnson, who is an assistant professor in the performing arts and the program coordinator for theatrical design and technology. As a scenic designer, his shows have been seen across the US and each year on the Elon stage. Professor Johnson is also the co-advisor for Elon's Gender and Sexuality Living Learning Community. A former North Carolina teaching fellow, he is passionate about education and reaching all learners. So at this time, Jeff, who is filming, and I are going to leave the space so that Dr. Johnson can speak to you without his mask on. Here's Charles Johnson.
Good morning. Today I would like to talk with you about hope as motivation. When I was asked to speak at today's Newman Lumen months ago, I agreed, thinking that I had plenty of time to figure out what I would talk about and find inspiration. However, this is not what happened, and I found myself hopeless and with a serious case of writer's block. I became bogged down in the negativity of politics, a convoy of hate which paraded its way through our campus, the many preventable deaths at the hand of police officers and vigilantes, pandemics of racism and illness, a planet which is struggling to support life and survive, and the realization that facts are no longer viewed as absolute ideas which have been proven to be true. Fear and anxiety had me, like many of us, longing for a better future. But as Michelle Obama said, fear is not a proper motivator. Hope wins out. As I pondered over the theme of bridging to hope, I really thought about hope and what it means to me. My biggest problem with hope is that on the surface, hope is often passive. We hope someone has a good day, or we hope things get better. But hope cannot be relied upon solely to get us through bad times. It should not be a destination, for then it's a hollow promise, a fantasy which can be unfulfilling and cruel when relied upon. If we live on hope alone, then we continue to yearn for something which we may never find. We become a one-shoed Miss Havisham, alone in a decaying home and ensconced in a dirty wedding gown. However, I believe hope is a successful motivator. Hope can get us out of the bed in the morning, but then we must act. When paired with will and determination, hope can be a powerful thing and motivate us to continue on our journeys and achieve our goals. For years, psychologists have recognized that hope is more than a feel-good emotion. Charles R. Schneider argued that hope is a motivational system. His hope theory proved people with hope have learning goals which lead to growth and success. These people are actively engaged in their learning, self-monitor their progress, and use their planned strategies to work towards and meet their goals. Scott Barry Kaufman wrote in The Will and Ways of Hope that we all need hope to survive and thrive as human beings. He states, hope allows people to approach problems with a mindset and strategy set suitable to success, thereby increasing the chances they will actually accomplish their goals. Hope-related cognitions are important and conducive to growth and improvement. Hope motivates us to become more than we are. It pushes our boundaries and nurtures our growth. My faith in God is one of the biggest wells of hope I have. Because of this, I would like to share a reading from 1 Thessalonians 5:8-11 with you. This epistle was written by Paul to the new Thessalonian church after Timothy returned with news of their strong faith in the face of continued persecution. Paul wrote this letter as encouragement to the Jews and Gentiles who attended and were thriving in this new church. I chose this passage because most of us want to know what the future holds. And 1 Thessalonians provides Christians with a clear view on the coming rapture. It is a promise that all believers will meet Christ and spend eternity with the Lord. I also feel the imagery of faith, love, and hope as pieces of armor is applicable as we face off against injustice and hardship. Paul writes, "But since we belong to the day, let us be sober, putting on faith and love as a breastplate and the hope of salvation as a helmet. For God did not appoint us to suffer wrath, but to receive salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ. He died for us, so that whether we are awake or asleep, we may live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." According to Paul, hope for the return of Jesus Christ is a motivation for spiritual growth. This hope provides comfort in the midst of persecution, suffering, and unrest. Through his actions, Paul also shows us that hope is a tool of leadership. For those non-believers and believers alike, I ask you to consider and act upon the charge Paul ends with: to encourage one another and build each other up. To encourage one another and build each other up. It is too easy to allow our frustration, our fear, and our exhaustion to influence our interactions with each other. But by giving grace to one another, showing compassion, and offering encouragement, we can make our lives a little bit easier in these trying times. By giving the benefit of the doubt, we can let go of some of the stress caused by others and overlooked possible or perceived slights. We can choose to see the best in each other, even when we are acting ugly in the moment. Nature is another well of hope for me. I feel rejuvenated after spending a few nights camping, when paddleboarding on a beautiful lake or river, or hiking a trail through trees or across a mountain. Nature is consistent with its assurances that dawn comes after night and spring after winter, as Rachel Carson noted in Silent Spring. And that consistency brings a more worldly perspective on stressors. It reminds me how small I am in the universe, but also that my every action has an effect outside of myself. I can let go of the things I cannot control, live in the moment, and reflect on where I am in my life. It realigns my focus and motivates me to work towards my goals. During my first year in grad school, during what UNCSA calls intensive arts, right before Christmas break, I was overexerting myself. I was designing a main stage production with a New York director, working on my intensive arts project, and creating a digital projection content for Photonapalooza. It's a semester-ending event which combines lights, music, and projection. And as many of us are prone to do when working on a project for long hours, my group ate together and even shared water bottles if someone was running low. What my group did not know was that norovirus had hit the campus hard. I was one of numerous students to come down with the stomach virus, but luckily it didn't hit me until the last day of intensive arts. And I crawled into bed that night, sick. I didn't leave except to use the restroom, and was there for 3 days before I was found. I had lost a lot of weight, was severely dehydrated, and very, very weak. Being days before Christmas and during a norovirus outbreak, the ER and urgent care clinics were swamped. I was checked in and triaged and told to wait in my car. Luckily, we found a physician who could see me sooner than the ER. After 3 IV bags of fluid and a thorough checkup, I was told to go home, eat some soup and crackers, and rest. However, I did not begin to recover. 3 days later, I was back at the doctor's office with blood results indicating that I had celiac disease, which had been triggered and brought to the forefront by the norovirus. My allergies had also gone through the roof. A gastroenterologist confirmed the blood tests with an endoscopy. My body was in turmoil, and the only way to recover was with a hard reset. For a year, I could not eat dairy, eggs, corn, soy, or any of their byproducts. Adding these to my extensive list of food allergies, which includes seafood, peanuts, and a variety of fruits and vegetables, and then wheat, I was severely limited. For those of you who don't know, soy, corn, and wheat are found in the majority of our foods, and this was before many of the healthy organic alternatives were commonly available. As I recovered on meat, rice, potatoes, and a few vegetables with no seasoning, I spiraled into a depression. I loved food. I was someone who could eat a half-gallon of ice cream while watching a movie, and it brought me joy. I was physically active before, but now had to restrict all physical activity until I got my weight back up. Yet, I had no interest on food. On top of this, I had to have serious discussions with my graduate program about whether I could physically continue in the intensive conservatory-style program, or if I should take a hiatus. My grandfather, our family's patriarch, was also succumbing to Parkinson's disease and dementia. It was a very bad year. The depression worsened, my attitude worsened, and I was at my lowest point. That year, I had to dig deep in my well for hope. And that motivated me to keep going, to see the doctors, to meet with a nutritionalist weekly, push myself to complete projects and attend classes, and slowly build back my stamina. I lived only a few blocks from school, so would push myself to walk. What took me 10 minutes before I was sick now took me almost 30 and left me physically exhausted. But I took pleasure in the old trees which made a canopy over the street, beautiful in winter with their skeletal structures, then with small splashes of green, and later an eruption of leaves forming a ceiling over the street. As the trees shifted through spring, I too changed as I strengthened physically and mentally. My art and the desire to make more and better art pushed me to stay in the present moment. I couldn't allow myself to dwell over the past, and it did no good to live solely for the future, which I had no control over. I would look at the old houses along my way and imagine the families who lived there in the past and got through similar or worse things than I was going through. I imagined their happiness and big events that happened in those beautiful historic homes. I read John 3:16 daily as I brushed my teeth. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. What I memorized in Bible school and elementary school had a deeper meaning now. Because if God gave his Son to us, he loved me enough to get me through it. It became my mantra as I pushed myself and slowly recovered. When life throws challenges and hardships at us, we must have hope. We must have hope that we can get through it, then use our will and our determination to ensure we do. Let hope get you out of bed in the morning, then decide how you are going to beat the odds and actively make life better. As an English major in undergrad, my foci was British literature and young adult literature. In Coraline, Neil Gaiman writes, "Fairy tales are more than true, not because they teach us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten." There are many figurative dragons in this world, many Saurons, Uriah Heeps, Iagos, and agents of chaos. But we have the power to overcome them. We have the power to overcome these things and the power to help others overcome them. Be generous in helping others beat their dragons. Give support, encouragement, and lend them some strength. As Myra Rose says, one must champion oneself and say, I am ready for this. I leave you today with a quote from Alfred Tennyson, which I believe is apt today and specifically for 2020 as a whole. Hope smiles from the threshold of the year to come, whispering, it will be happier. Let our hope motivate us to be better, do better, and live better. Thank you.